Welcome back to another Purpose Served podcast episode. I'm your host, Daryl Wingfield. And if you're new to this podcast, just to let you know what this podcast is about, this podcast is about inspiring you to take action towards your dreams and aspirations to serve your purpose. Thus, if you go back to the 50 plus podcast episodes, you're gonna catch the vibe of the message here. And we got a special episode today with the podcast. And this podcast episode today, this is booty lighting. I'm not even gonna lie, but this podcast episode today is going to be about following your bliss. And what do I mean by that? Follow your bliss. This was a term coined by Joseph Campbell, and Joseph Campbell is somebody that I reference a lot on his podcast, um, due to the fact how much that he directly inspired me uh, through his wisdoms and his studies. And this this book right here, The Hero with a Thousand Faces. Right now, I'm still not finished the book. I'm currently reading three books right now at the same time. I'm reading this book. I'm reading 12 Rules for Life by Jordan B. Peterson. And I'm also reading, I believe, Relentless by Tim Grover, which is books that I talked about on the podcast, but I have yet to finish them. It's just been kind of crazy. Um, but follow your bliss to me is very, very important, and not only that, it's essential to us as human beings. This I talk about all the time how uncertain life is, and at the end of the day, we don't know. We don't know if we're doing the right thing. We don't know we're doing the wrong thing. We don't know if we're heading in the right direction. And recently, with me, since the last time we spoke, and I did the podcast on the city that I come from, Newark, New Jersey. Um, Shout out to Newark. Shout out to everybody in Newark. Shout out to my family. Shout out to my friends. Shout out to my cousins, my brothers, my sisters, my pops, my stepmom, my aunts, all of them. But ever since then, I've been putting myself in uncomfortable situations. I'm not even gonna lie, to be very transparent with you guys. So at the moment, at this very very moment, I am building digital planners uh, pertaining to goal setting and also mindfulness as well, all in the planner. I believe that planners that people typically use is more so for decorative purposes and making your to-do list look, like cool. And also, for the most part, planners is used by women and not really dudes. Dudes don't really use planners. It's just, we go about our day. But um, with me, a lot of things, how I got to this point is from writing things down, having a set date to do things, and having it done in a certain time. And that's pretty much what the digital planners is about, for the business. And that's going to lead into the Purpose Served app, which is going to be called the Purpose Served Tracker, which will be a habit tracking app. Um, in a way where you can set goals. You can put your goals in a dashboard. It's going to have unique features such as like a feel wheel where you can pick emotions or moods um, towards why you feel that way towards your goal, ranging anywhere from content, happy to sad, angry, tired, relaxed, anxious. Yeah. So I got a team working with me right now with this stuff. I'm currently working on the digital planners on my own. If you have any expertise in that, please feel free to email me at servethepurpose@gmail.com. I'll put the link in the description. But doing these things it led me into, like I said, uncertainty with the idea that I'm doing, and just mustering the confidence, like, you know what, I can do this. I'm gonna get this done because I'm just that type of person. In the face of doubt, in the face of uncertainty, in the face of adversity, like I said, that's the only way you're gonna develop the courage that you need, is to sit there and just be like, you know what, this thing in front of me does seem insurmountable, but I'm gonna stick my chest out and I'm gonna face it, and whatever happens, happens. So going back to Follow Your Bliss, coined by Joseph Campbell, he says that pretty much you when you arrive at the brink, the jumping point into the ocean. I believe he said it's three different aspects of it. It's being, full consciousness, and your rapture. And for me, my rapture was basketball, something that gave me immense amount of pleasure and something that I enjoyed so much. Like I said, going all the way back to the age of 14 when I really fell in love with the game of basketball and it started growing on me. But when you step into things like this awakens you in a really, really deep sense. And for me, I believe that everybody has that capacity. It's not even a belief. It's definitely an absolute truth. And the more your concerns start to go elsewhere, and you develop responsibilities, and this comes with maturity. This comes with getting older. The bliss somehow just start to wither away, and it's easy to get to a point where you look around and you're deeply unsatisfied with the life that you're living, and you don't even know where to start to try to build a life that is going to make you happy, because in a sense that's what we all want. And I also talk about how happiness is pretty much one of those things where it's borderline impossible to experience all the time. You get those windows of being happy, but for me, like I said, going for fulfillment is a sure way, And when you go towards these things, you go through these weird trials and tribulations where it, like I said, it makes you uncertain of yourself. But if you keep leaning in to, like your rapture and your consciousness and your being, and you bring all of those things together, it's something like it's an interview. If you guys want to check it out, if you type in Joseph Campbell, I think the guy name is Bill Myers he was talking to. I could be totally wrong about that, but it's a really, really well-known interview that he have when he talks about this, all these different aspects of pretty much the standpoint of mythology, all of these stories throughout history that created all these type of cultures, and even like a lot of things where religion stem from is some of these mythological things, which he think that it comes from our deep unconscious mind. So when we go to sleep and we have these weird dreams and we see these weird symbols and we're in these weird places that's giving us weird signs and stuff like that, and it's up to you, solely up to you. You know what I mean? To figure out what your bliss is, and it's solely up to you to find it, and nobody can tell you what that is for you. And for me personally, that was like a problem. That was definitely a problem. And I was working at Planet Fitness and I was lost. Dag. Maybe I should have freaking keep my face right here. But I was lost, and I remember calling my mom. This is something that I talked about on here. I know that for a fact, but I called her and asked her, was I doing the right thing with following my dreams? You know, and she just pretty much told me, no matter what you decide to do, I'm going to support you, no matter what. That wasn't necessarily the answer I was looking for at the time, but it was extremely, I want to say, helpful in the long run, you know, because I had to keep leaning towards what led me here. And if I didn't do that, for me speaking, if I didn't follow my own bliss, I wouldn't be able to present that to you guys, right now. And it's something that Joseph Campbell also talked about in his interview, where he say, you know, doors will open, in pretty much at unexpected places, and you will meet people in the field of where your bliss is at. And from me playing basketball, and from me starting Purpose Served, and to me even doing this podcast, all of those things definitely happened to me. And without that, I wouldn't, have met Michael, who was been on this podcast a couple times already at this point. I wouldn't have been a brand ambassador for what his business is doing. And, hashtag never settle. But, finding out about him, which is something that I just did an Instagram live with him, I want to say last Sunday, almost a week ago. And just getting a chance to, tell him, the appreciation that I do have of him, and the journey that we even came up to this point. Because at this point, we've known each other for, pretty much, a year now. And he's grown so much, as a person, in his business as well. And, he's getting after it. But he's following his bliss. Another person that I don't think I ever talked about on here, I probably mentioned him once, Amar. Cool dude. He has another podcast that's personally one of my favorite podcasts, called Elevated Thoughts. Only positivity, man. But that's another person that, he follows his bliss. And he read this book, The Hero with 1,000 Faces, and other books that I talked about, like 12 Rules for Life. And we have so much in common. And that's one of those things where, like I said, he's following his bliss. He's on his hero's journeys. And that's another term that I use a lot on his podcast, especially as of recently. And actually, I will be putting his podcast in the description down below. Please check it out. It's awesome. You have some awesome guests. He has conversations ranging from anything that you could possibly think of, from talking to his friends, talking to, so many different people. Like, he just had, on his last two podcasts, he had a meditation guy on there, and another dude that owns his own business, and they talk about so many topics that just ranges, but it's highly relatable. So please go check that out. But through me doing this, I had to step into a field where I was very unsure of myself, but I knew what my rapture was. And my rapture was beyond, at this point, playing basketball. It led me into realizing that I know that for a fact, people are capable of the same thing as me. It's just about getting past those certain limitations that you see in front of you. And limitations, for example, that I talked about personally myself with doing this podcast. The very first one was me being camera shy. Even though I played basketball with cameras on me and stuff like that, nothing, don't think too crazy about that. Like I'm some freaking NBA superstar, which I know you guys not, but being able to tune out all of that stuff to focus on what you got to do, and from an individual aspect, I had to apply that to myself, and that was not a easy thing to do. And I talk about all the time, you know, I had to grow into getting comfortable with having this interaction and being able to, laugh and feel as though I'm talking to an audience. Because when I first started, it's like this feels kind of awkward. I'm talking to myself. Nobody's really not listening, and I see that you guys are out there listening. Um, like I said, shout out to the people that's stateside. Shout out to the people that's abroad. Yet, of course, like I said, Japan, Germany, especially. I love you guys out there. Your support means so much to me, you know, and I wouldn't have had access to that, like I said, if I didn't follow my bliss. And no matter what, when you follow your bliss, the very first thing that you're going to face is going to be uncertainty. Ain't is There's no avoiding that. It's no avoiding that, and it's in a way where you have to succumb is not the right word to use, but I would want to say you have to go with mostly what feels right rather than what feels good. And that's something that I've been dwelling on. My mind has been dwelling on these last couple of weeks because of the character evolution that I went through with um, pretty much spending the first 20 years, 20 all the way up until like I want to say 23, 24 years of my life of doing what feels good, doing what I want to do, and not and rarely doing what was right, you know, um, from a very selfish standpoint, and now that I'm doing on this kind of path and this kind of trajectory, it's been challenging me every single step of the way. And yeah, I may I may come across as uh I wouldn't necessarily say like I know what I'm talking about, but I do through my experience. And that's why I challenge you guys to step into it yourselves and really know what I'm talking about, what it feels like, and getting past that fear. And even if you did get past that point and you're in the midst of nothing, there isn't anything that's clicking. Everything just seemed to be going wrong. When you're faced with these uncertainties and they're constantly, feeling as though like making you feel like you're incapable to get past that, really at that point really start to really lean in into your bliss, because you're hearing stuff like this for a reason. You're reading probably some of the stuff that's inspiring you to keep going in spite of these circumstances, because there's only, I'm gonna keep it real, it's only a small percentage of people that get past that point without letting life overwhelm them with, how relentless it is with resistance, which is another podcast episode that I have out talking about that. And like I said, I can't tell you what you have to do, but the universal signs are there, and it's a deep sense that I believe, just to get spiritual with you guys, like this is about to honestly probably get like real spiritual. I might make a separate YouTube channel uh for spirituality. You know what? Nah, everything stays here. But it's in a way where whatever this calling is to tell you to do what you do is coming from the source. And personally, for me, the source is God. I don't know what that might be for any of you guys. Guys might coin the term universe. I don't know. But that's where I believe that we will return, and I believe that's where we come from. But we're operating in a space and time that's empty. That's literally a void. Even though we got these physical things, you listen to a podcast, you got headphones in, you're probably driving in your car on your way to work, watching this on YouTube, and you can feel these things. You can listen to it. You can smell the air. All of these things, but it's still to me an empty void in space that we return back to, and in the same empty void in space, you have everything and you have nothing in the same place. And that's something that I also read in this book, The Hero with the Thousand Faces, which it don't make sense, but in a way, look at it like this. It's a representation of infinite possibilities, infinite choices, infinite realities, and is ultimately based off of like I said, I didn't even say this, but it's based off of the choices that you make that dictate that time and space, this void that you operate in it, and it goes by pretty freaking quickly. Something that I talk about constantly is how fast things go, and you want to take advantage of it because it's slipping away from us. Every day we get closer to that expiration date. Every day, every second, every minute, every hour that goes by, you're getting closer to, having that, not to be harsh, but having that one foot in the grave, you know? And it's important to know that when you get these inclinations, this deep sense of being to tell you to do something, when your soul tell you to do something, you better freaking listen to it, yo. The worst thing that you can do for yourself is to not listen to it. And oftentimes it might contradict what your community believe, what your school taught you, what your job is. But at the same time, what's on the other side of that is way bigger and way more beneficial than you. You were just a vessel to bring it about. And that's why I say I want to use purpose served with me being a guinea pig to let you guys know that that's absolutely the case. This light is freaking terrible. This sun is high key cooking me. It's frying me, fried egg, but but yeah, you have to seriously get past that, and that's my challenge to you. If you feel stuck, listen to what your soul is telling you. And I've done that so many times, countless amount of times, when my soul told me to leave this job or get on this plane, go do this. And even with basketball, that's like the same thing. It's with basketball with me when I play, it's oftentimes I play through filling the game out, and when I get to the point when of course you gotta think. Basketball is definitely a game of chess once you get like really good at it, but you get to a point where you have to sink in to your deep sense of knowing, which takes a lot of practice. It takes a lot of work. All of these things that I'm talking about is a process. It's 100% a process, and it don't happen overnight. But the process teaches you what you have to know. It opens those doors. That process, connect you with people that you would have never connected with if you didn't lean into your bliss, if you didn't lean into your rapture. That opens up your consciousness. That opens up your being. And I believe that it's a dying art now. It's starting to become a dying art. And I also feel as though there's a really, it's a strong need for it now more than ever, because people are legit losing their sense of self. And they're losing their sense of self due to, I wouldn't say the distractions, but technology is a blessing and a curse due to the fact that how much we have access to at any given moment, and also what it shows us at any given moment. It shows us, whatever we want to look for. We want to look for nothing but the good. We could find that. We want to look nothing for the bad. We're gonna find that. The ugly, the indifferent. You can find whatever it is. But in a way, think about what I just said. That's bringing you outside of yourself, of your deep self, and now you're taking in all of these energies, all of these spirits for real, and you're trying to make it authentic to you. And in a weird way, I'm sending out that vibration, but at the same time, I'm telling you, I don't know what your bliss is. That is up for you to find. But there are tools, there are ways to connect with that. And that's why I'm doing what I'm doing. That's why I show you the people that I show you. That's why, I tell you about people like, Joseph Campbell, and talk about dudes like Abraham Maslow. Talks about self-actualization, act like which is like the highest being of ourself is to realize who we are to the core of ourselves, and that way you can better interact with the life that's like around you. That's pivotal, man. That's key. And it also helps you from going insane, going crazy, man. And we all on the brink of that. We're definitely all on the brink of that. And especially with the way things are going. And it feels like I have to do this. This feels like what's right. It don't feel like what's good. Like, it turned into the point it feels good. I'm not even going to lie. It did. But at the same time, it's most importantly, it feels like something that I have to do. Everything that I'm doing, it feels like it's my sole mission. It's the reason why I'm here and operating this time and space, that's going on, this plane of existence right now. I could have been born like 300 years ago in like Australia somewhere or Africa. I shouldn't have said that, but you know what? Yeah, shout out to my people in the motherland. But I wasn't. I was born in America in 1994 in New Jersey, here and now, to be doing this here and now. And that's not a coincidence. It 100% isn't a coincidence. None of this stuff is. None of this stuff was by chance. It's definitely by design, and it's a system. And you fit in that system. You may not think that you don't have a purpose, or you might have a nihilistic viewpoint on life, and feel like ain't nothing after this means absolutely nothing. You know what I mean? And you can be right. That's when uncertainty comes into play. But it's up to you to take those steps and discover that yourself and jump into the ocean. See if you're going to swim or drown. But I think that if you guys trust me, and trust most importantly yourselves to the core, to the deepest part of your sense of self, you're going to realize that the path was laid out in front of you all along. And that's why you get these inclinations to do certain things, to create certain things, even when you tell yourself that, I don't know. So just to put out a story out there that's similar to this, a biblical story, is with my dude Moses. Let my people go, Moses. Pardon the seas, Moses. This man, when he was talking to the burning bush God, which is crazy. I remember listening to a Joe Rogan podcast, and I think Graham Hancock was on there, and they was talking about the burning bush might have been ayahuasca, and Moses could have been like tripping his balls off, thinking that he was talking to God. But that's besides the point. That was a side note. Back to what I was saying. But Moses was somebody that was very, very uncertain in his abilities to get that done, and facing the Pharaoh, the supreme dictator, the end all be all, which is very symbolic and representative of the higher powers that we go against, which is, our system of education, our government, our like teachers, parents, authority figures. That was like Pharaoh. And Moses had to lean into himself deeply and a higher power, which is God, you know what I mean? Which is the source, like I talked about earlier. And even in the uncertainty, be like, yo, bet. I'm scared as hell, but I'm gonna listen to you. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do this. I feel like I don't got a choice. I have to do this. And even after he freed the slaves, it still wasn't over for him. He get they was in the wilderness wandering for like 40 years because of their lack of faith and not quickly forgetting that they're not slaves no more. They was freed from slavery. And they still now, they're doing idol worship, burning casts and stuff like that. And Moses is like, bruh, I don't got no control over these people. Yo, God, what do I do? And now the Ten Commandments get cooked up out of nowhere. You know what I mean? Which the Ten Commandments is, you don't need to be religious to believe in the Ten Commandments. You shouldn't kill nobody. You shouldn't be stealing. You shouldn't be, you know what I'm saying, having sex with somebody else's spouse. So many other things, like from a moral standpoint, that it's quite obvious. Doing what feels good versus doing what feels right. You know what I mean? And like I said, I got mad good at doing what feels good. In fact, I feel as though I mastered it. You know what I'm saying? But now, I've definitely mastered doing what feels right, because my brain can't even process doing what feels good. It's like, I don't know. My moral compass got way too strong, and to the point where I definitely have to dial it back. You know what I mean? Because I get too serious about it at times. And that's the type of person that I've come to be. It's just that, like I said, I'm extreme. If I'm committing myself to something, I commit myself to it. If I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. And Moses never even got a chance to enter the promised land. He died without even experiencing a dream for what it was. He didn't even experience what he even set out for, like his bliss that he had to follow. He was just a gateway to get that done and to have that spark. And even if I don't reach, my promised land and reach my bliss, I feel as though I'm doing what my calling is, my deep sense of being. And through basketball, it led me to this. When I was 14, 15 years old, I didn't think that I would be, putting things out on YouTube or even Spotify. I don't even think Spotify was like a thing. Well, it probably was. I just simply didn't know about it. But, I simply didn't know. And like I said, when I got cut in high school and when I went off to college and still tried to play in college, but my grades was too low, GPA, and trying to transfer and get into other schools, and it just wasn't working out. And I'm doing so much, like, you know what I mean? That's so contrary to like education that I eventually dropped out of college. And I was very uncertain about my future. I was very uncertain with basketball, and I didn't reach the mark at all with anything that I want to do. And I still currently feel as though I didn't reach the mark with anything that I want to do. To be quite honest, there's so much, but I have to still show up, and I still have to do what's right. I still have to put out these podcasts. I still have to, put out the digital planners. I still have to make the Purpose Serve tracker. And eventually, when it's all said and done, I want Purpose Serve to be an interactive community where people are inspiring other people to create through either learning or performing. Because that's what we're constantly going through. We're either gaining knowledge or we're taking action with the knowledge that we have. So you're breaking things down between performance goals and learning goals, but you can attribute learning goals to skill acquirements. You know what I mean? So if your performance goal is to pass a class, then what learning goals do you need in order to pass a class? Studying. Well, that's eventually going to turn into a skill. Doing assignments. That's also a learning goal, which is eventually going to turn into a skill. Skills is something that you need to learn but apply at the same time. So that's why it's still a goal because it's still actions implemented that you still have to do when it's all said and done. Um, this is what I would like y'all to do for me. Please follow your bliss, and if your bliss is telling you to like, share, subscribe, then do that. If it's telling you to leave a comment and pretty much communicate how did this podcast make you feel, lean into it, do it. If it's telling you to reach out to me, email me, then do it. Follow your bliss. Follow your bliss. And with that being said, with you following your bliss, you're also serving your purpose, which is you taking action towards your goals and your dreams and aspirations. This is the end of the podcast episode. I thank you guys for being here with me and experiencing this with me. Now that the light came out of nowhere, but yeah, I'm out. Last but not least, deuces.